Everybody is arguing all the time about everything all the time. We're so good at that with ourselves, with other people. And softness is saying, instead of being so rigid that you can't listen to yourself or anybody, it's allowing yourself to be physically, mentally, emotionally movable.
Hi, I'm Dr. Avanti Kumar-Singh, and this is the Healing Catalyst podcast. I'm a medical doctor with over 20 years of experience and also a lifelong practitioner of Ayurveda. I created the Healing Catalyst podcast because we all deserve a different kind of conversation about health, one that's honest, holistic, and rooted in both science and soul. On this show, I'm joined by the world's leading experts to give you science-backed tools that you can start using today and actually stick with to build real health and longevity. I am so glad you're here. Now let's get to it. Hello, my friends. Welcome back. And if you're new here, hello. I am Dr. Avanti Kumar-Singh, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. You are in for a great conversation that I had with my good friend, Tara Stiles, who at this point is a recurring guest on the podcast and truly one of my favorite people to talk to. And if you want to check out her earlier episodes on the podcast, those are linked for you in the show notes. I invited Tara back because I believe her concept of living softly is something we all need to bring into our lives, especially right now. There's so much energy in the world that feels really, really hard. So much contention, so much discussion, but arguments. And on top of that, we live in a culture that glorifies pushing harder when things get tough, right? We hear things like no pain, no gain, or go hard or go home. But coming at everything hard with more hard energy just keeps us in a constant state of rigid overdrive. And it takes a huge toll on our health, on our peace, and on our ability to feel any real joy in the world. But my friend Tara, she offers another way. She calls it living softly, and she describes it not as being passive or checked out, but as a sense of openness, a flexible way of being in the world, emotionally, mentally, and physically. You'll hear us talk about how the word soft can be very misleading because this way of living, it's actually incredibly strong. It's strength without tension, ease without force. And as you'll hear in our conversation, it's often much harder to choose softness than it is to distract ourselves with busyness or overdrive. Tara also shares how when you practice this kind of softness, this living softly, it shows up as real power. For example, in yoga, you might be able to hold a plank longer, not because you're clenching or muscling through it, but because you're using your energy efficiently without tension. And beyond movement, this energy of softness carries into every part of life. You can literally shift the energy in a room just by how you stand, how you breathe, and how you hold your body, even in something like a business meeting. And believe me, I have used these techniques. I've used them every day in my life, and it's transformational. It's transformational with the way that I relate to myself, the way that I show up in the world, and the way that I relate to others. And it's fascinating because there's science to back this up. Research shows that practices like softening help us access what's called the flow state, a deeply focused, effortless state of being where you're completely present and engaged. Flow state increases dopamine and other feel-good brain chemicals. It reduces stress hormones like cortisol and is linked to better mental health, improved productivity, and even greater longevity. And there's data to back this up. Living softly is one of the most effective and accessible ways to get into the flow state. And to help us get into this flow state, Tara guides us through something she calls softness breaks. These are simple, everyday moments where you consciously release tension in your body, rolling your neck while you wait in line, unclenching your jaw before a Zoom call, taking a few deep breaths between tasks. It sounds really small, but the impact is huge. It's real. These practices keep us grounded. They help us stay in our bodies and they allow us to show up in the world with clarity for the people we love and for ourselves. They even allow us to be a calming force in the world without sacrificing productivity or personal power. I see this episode as more than just a conversation with my good friend Tara Stiles. It's an offering, a healing option you can choose right now to help release the tension in your body, in your relationships, and in your life. And I'm so grateful to have Tara here to guide us into this powerful practice, one that can shift your health, your mindset, and your life. Here's a little bit more about Tara. Tara Stiles is the co-founder of Strala Yoga, a best-selling author and a leading voice in well-being. She has revolutionized yoga for millions of people around the world, transforming a practice that's often seen as rigid or guru-based into something intuitive, accessible, and grounded in ease. Strala Yoga is now practiced in more than 100 countries. Certified Strala guides lead classes globally every single day. And Tara shares yoga with thousands of people through the Strala Yoga app. She's been featured in the New York Times, the Times of India, the Times UK, and in most major national and international publications. Right now, Tara is working on her newest book called Living Softly, and I am so incredibly lucky to call her my friend. Okay, now let's get into it. Hi, Tara. How are you, my dear? I'm so excited to do this with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to always be back. I feel like a recurring guest,
You
on your
are.
show. So thanks for trusting in me all these times.
Oh, no, I love it. You and I have been friends for a couple of years now, and I really love talking to you about everything,
Mm.
but especially about your practice and your community with Strala Yoga and just how you've been able to build this incredible community that's global, not just in the United States. You help people move, you help them heal, you help them connect more with themselves through this idea of softness and ease. And I mean, you've written tons of books and you're writing your next book, Living Softly, which I'm so excited about. So I wanted to start with this question of what have you learned in all of these years of building this amazing community of Strala Yoga? And how does that connect to this new book, Living Softly?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's taken me a long time to sort of figure out what I've always been trying to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've always been looking for these ways to do these practices that so many of us get drawn to, but sort of taking out the rigidity, the struggle, the dogma, all that stuff. And over time, I think I've just gotten a little bit better at figuring out what those things that I've been taking out were. At first, it was sort of like, make your own rules. Like, you don't have to do the pose in that way. And it was very, 20 something version of me. But it's still the same feeling of soften, move
Mhm.
yourself in a way that's helpful for you. So I think I've just gotten a little bit better at figuring out what I've always wanted and the whole growth of Strala and all these people, I feel like I haven't done any of that. It's sort of like we're all kind of finding each other like, "Oh yeah, I feel that way too. Let's
Mhm.
do this together." And whether they're coming for my yoga classes online or in person, or they want to come and kind of figure that out for themselves in their lives, or then go and teach yoga in that way. I
Mhm.
feel like we're all just searching for the same things together. And that's been such a fun quest the whole time. And really the center of it now, and maybe it's always been softness, but I've sort
Mhm.
of now figured out a bit more how to enjoy that for myself and also describe it for myself and other people in a way that makes more sense.
Yeah. And so what exactly does living softly mean to you?
I think for me personally, it's the opposite of beating yourself up to accomplish things. And
Mhm.
that sort of action that we're all so good at. We all want to get things done, whether it's in our personal lives or work. And we're all in that no pain, no gain mindset, whether it's coming from the inside or outside. And living softly for me personally is saying, yeah, I still want to get things done and
Right.
accomplish and be a good mom and a partner and work and have my goals, but I want to feel good in the process. I don't want to delay this goodness to some sort of imaginary other side. And I've realized that that's not real anyway. However you feel now is how you're going to feel when you get that goal or get that thing. So I've been so interested in feeling what's happening with me all along the way and through that lens of softness for sure.
Right. So you're speaking to the idea of not looking for what is out there when I reach the goal, when I get to XYZ destination, and saying that I'll feel different then. What you're saying is, I want to feel that way now, in the
Yes.
now as I'm going along, right? If I'm hearing
Yeah.
you correctly? Yeah.
Exactly. And just the simple noticing how you feel. I mean, even in today's, evolved workouts, we still hear from brands and messages and all these things of just do the thing and then you'll feel good. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, why can't I feel good while I'm doing the thing that's also designed to help me feel good? I don't want to eat
Right.
healthy because it's good for me. I want to eat healthy because it actually tastes good and I enjoy cooking and it's fun and I want to do the healthy thing. I'm choosing the right
Mhm.
thing instead of forcing myself to choose this thing that's good for me. So then later I will be good. That kind of
Mhm.
no
Right.
pain, no gain still exists now.
Right. And so how do you think that this philosophy has changed your own life? Wanting to feel now how you are expecting that you'll feel at the destination. How's that changed how you do things?
I think my mind has gotten a lot calmer. And
Mm.
for me, I think that's the biggest win. I look back 10 years, 15 years, whatever, when I was doing a lot of cool things and I was excited about my life and I was moving how it feels good and all those things, but I felt really busy in my mind.
Mhm.
And now all those hard things are still happening. Challenges are coming in.
Sure.
The things haven't gotten easier, they've actually gotten harder. We all know that when life goes on, more people get sick, more people have issues. I'm
Mhm.
older, you know what I mean? Like I have to take it more easy, all
Sure.
these kinds of things. But I also feel like I'm able to notice something that is happening that might have before perhaps send me into a spinning spiral. And now I'm like, okay, I can soften, I can slow down, see this for what it is, and
Mhm.
continue moving forward so that panic doesn't attach itself to me. I can keep going and more things become possible, which is pretty cool.
Right. I mean, that sounds amazing. And then on the flip side, you hear this word softness or soft,
Mm,
right? And I feel like the word soft has like had really bad PR, like the worst PR in the world because in the United States, in Western culture, this word softness is like it's a connotation of easy, simple, lazy. I don't know what word, but people shudder when they think of, oh,
mm,
I'm soft or I'm moving softly or I'm doing things softly, right? It's not used in a quote positive way, but you are completely changing that sort of perspective. I mean, you're trying to give it good PR. So,
mm.
how do you help people get over that uncomfortability that they feel when they hear the word live softly?
Well, I think it's cool that it's a little bit. I mean, I haven't really thought about this till we were talking about it earlier, but softness is a little bit controversial right now.
Right.
Hopefully that'll change, but in a way where noticing how you feel or moving how it feels good was controversial, at least in the circles that I was talking about it in within yoga about 15, 20 years ago. But yoga's changed. And now the the reality of softness is it's absolutely necessary in order to get things done in the way that reaches your full potential. So there doesn't need to be a spin on it. There just needs to be an explanation of what the heck it is. When we have the
Mm.
force, push, and struggle, we can surely get a lot done because we're used to that. We
Uh-huh.
can break down walls, but we're destroying ourselves in the process. But if you move in a way that's nice to you and holistic, you're feeling good in the moment, but people really don't. What I've learned in teaching is people are like, yeah, sure, I care about that, but people really care about getting things done. You can
Uh-huh.
get more done when you're not destroying yourself in the process. So,
Right.
softness by definition is simply being movable. And
Mhm.
that's the hardest thing. Everybody is arguing all the time about everything all the time. We're so good at that with
Yeah,
ourselves, with other people.
sure. Mhm.
And softness is saying, instead of being so rigid that you can't listen to yourself or anybody, it's allowing yourself to be physically, mentally, emotionally movable. So
Mhm.
you can move yourself and be moved by yourself and be moved by other people. And that
Mhm.
can be the scariest
Sure.
thing to do, because we are so sure in what we think we know, and our approach to everything, that being movable, being soft is something we don't want any part of, for sure.
Right.
Until you
Right.
figure out, "Oh my gosh, this works." And then you have
Right.
to keep doing it every time when things are easy, so when things are hard, it works
Right.
then too.
Yeah, I mean, it plays into this idea, this myth of hustle culture and
Mm,
busyness, right? That we so subscribe to generally as a population in Western
mhm,
culture, especially, right? And actually, all throughout the world, right? This idea that, the more busy you are, the more special you are, the more a badge of honor and a medal it
mhm,
is, right? That, if you're exhausted and overbooked and overworked and running on fumes, you're doing something right, you know?
mm.
And so why do you think that we've equated busyness with success? Like, why do you think that that's happened? Because that's really where this is coming from. Our sort of, bristle towards this word softness and what you're talking about
Mm,
is like, no, 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 I've got to push because then I'm going to be busy and then I'm doing something and I'm going to be successful. So,
yeah.
why do you think we've been conditioned to really equate busyness and hustle with success versus softness with
I
success?
think because it's easier, you know? It's the low hanging fruit. It's like why sensational content that's rude and stupid always wins online,
Mm,
or
right.
in the
Mhm.
media. So in a way, I think it's just retraining our brains, retraining our what we put our attention to, what we go, oh my, I want to look at that.
Right.
A lot of my friends say, "Oh, I can't look at Instagram anymore. I'm just seeing all of these like horrible things." I'm like, well, yeah, but it shows you what you're giving attention to already. So it takes a
Yeah.
little bit of work to say, I
Yeah.
don't want to look at those horrible things that stress me out. I just
Yeah.
say, give me your phone. What are you interested in? I'll fix your algorithm in 5 minutes. Say, not
Yeah.
interested, not interested.
Right.
My Instagram is like knitting videos, like Strala people and you. So you
Mhm.
have to train
Yeah.
yourself first in what you're giving your attention to. And
Right.
then what you see back in your life, changes a lot.
Right.
But the rigidity is easy. Anybody can freak out and
Mhm.
respond with fists up and
Yeah.
anger, including myself. I mean, this is why I need this, because I'm, you know, quick to freak out too.
Right. And it's so interesting because what you are saying is actually what the science shows that,
Um,
this idea of hustle culture and overworking and busyness is actually not productive. We
mhm,
think that it is, like you said, it's sensationalized. It's the stuff that gets the clicks and the attention in culture. And so it's like the snowball effect, right?
mm,
Because people click on it, then it becomes the norm and then it becomes more clickable and like, right, it's just a cycle. But the science actually shows that this is not true, that what you're saying is true, that, there was a study that was done by the WHO in 2019 that shows that working over 55 hours per week actually increases the risk of stroke and heart
um,
disease by 35%. So it's not good for your health. A Stanford study also showed that productivity actually drops sharply after 50 hours of work per week, and that working beyond 50 hours creates no additional
you
results. So you're really not getting anywhere just because you think you're busy and working more and longer. You're actually not really achieving anything. So it's exactly what you're saying. The science proves it out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We did this one experiment years ago on the word softness and the practice of it in a group. And it was funny because even after we went through the exercise and everybody said, okay, softness wins against rigidity. But they
Mhm.
said, do you have a different word for it? Because
See?
it doesn't sound right.
Right.
And we had one group do just a squat position, do the position how you need to do it, rest everything that you don't need. Don't
Mhm.
put the extra clenching of your muscles, don't double do. And then the other group just did the squat with, the force, push, and struggle, the no pain, no gain way. And of course, what happened was the soft group could stay in it much longer. The other group was, crinkling their forehead, grunting and screaming and had to quit. So we
Mhm.
all in real time learned that the soft way got a lot more done. But the
Mhm.
interesting thing was a lot of the soft people even said that was much harder than doing it the hard way. It's emotionally harder to just be without busying your mind and your body with that extra because we're so used to it. It's
Right.
really hard to make the better choice. And I think that's the work.
Yeah, I mean, and it actually this is something I was thinking about is that hustle culture, like this idea of pushing harder, I think is an avoidance tactic. It's exactly what you're saying. I think that people stay in that, clenched, busy way, right? Even what you're describing with the experiment that you did to avoid the emotions, the deeper emotions that you have to deal with when
Mhm.
you relax a little. It's exactly what you're saying, right?
Yeah. And then it's amazing. I think that's what's so cool about doing this practice. One of the big things that happens is you're getting more comfortable with noticing what's going on with you. And if you're avoiding yourself all the time by busying yourself and overworking and overstressing, you're never, like you said, dealing with yourself, but you're also shutting off that intuition, that creativity,
Right.
all those things that we're trying to get by overworking. We're trying to get more creative, trying to get more done, but noticing how you feel, allowing yourself to soften, puts that spotlight back on yourself. And once you get comfortable with that a few times, it doesn't happen all the time, but you remember, oh yeah, it's good for me to notice how I feel. I feel better when I do that. I get more done.
Mhm.
People feel better around me. Things in my life go better. Yeah, this is a good idea. I should keep choosing this.
Right, right. I mean, and it's, it makes perfect sense physiologically, right? Because really, the hustle and the busyness that really just puts you into a stress state, right? You have increased cortisol, which is a stress hormone, you have increased adrenaline. And so, that causes increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased respiration, right? All of these things. And over time, if you are always in that state of this chronic stress of like the busyness, the pushing leads to
Mhm.
chronic illness, heart disease, weight gain, immune suppression, fatigue, all of these things are a result of that. So not only is it bad for your productivity and your creativity, it's also bad for your health in
Mm.
general. But I don't think that we all realize that because we've been conditioned to think that hustle, busy, push, grind, that is the way to succeed in life and in health and in work and whatever, right? It's
Yeah.
interesting.
And then you get the burnout, and then you get all the things to do when you're burnout. And then it's just a repetition because you can hustle, 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 burn out, and then, oh, relax, go on vacation, take a bath, keep it easy, take care of yourself. But then at some point, if you don't change what you're doing, you're going to end right back
Mhm.
up at the same place and need to get that same anti burnout book and start again.
Right,
So you got
right.
to change what you're doing if you don't want to be in that cycle forever.
Yeah. And what's coming up for me as you're saying this is that it's almost like there's two states, right? There's this hustle mode, this chronic stress state that we can be in with the busyness and the hustle. But then there's this other state called flow state. And when you're talking about living softly, keep coming back to that idea of the flow state, which has been studied a lot. And that really is the opposite that's happening in the brain, right? With hustle and busyness, it's all the stress hormones that are being released. But when you're in flow state, what we've found from science is that that state actually increases dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, all of the things that are feel good, that make you more creative, more productive in the sense of you're actually getting things done, your mind is working well, you're in a good mood. That's the state you want to be in, the flow state, not that hustle mode. And so it's just interesting because I feel like those are two opposite things almost. And living softly is all about how do I get into that flow state and stay there for as
Mhm.
much of the time as I can. Because flow state, what it's really been described as in the literature is a state when you're so fully immersed in your task with ease and enjoyment, that's what takes over. And that's why it's flow, because it's ease. It's
Mm,
easeful. All the things you talk about.
mm,
There was a study done in 2014 by McKinsey, the consulting company, and they found that executives that spent time in flow state were 500%
mm.
more productive than those that were forcing effort and multitasking. 500% more productive,
Oh, yeah. I believe it.
right? I mean, that is an astonishing number. It's not like 50% more
Yeah.
effective. It's 500% more effective when they were in this flow state versus hustle and forcing all the time.
Well, I mean, what's funny to me about that is, I was in New York then leading one-on-one yoga to a lot of those high executive people. A friend of mine would like send me all of his clients and they would all be like the startup of this and this and this. And they would all be coming to me with the hustle culture
Mhm.
and they wanted to relax. And I'm like, no, 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 you don't need to relax. You have all the money to go on vacation and relax. You need to get it together. And then I would show them how to soften in a plank pose. And I would always do this, and I would never do this with like a normal person because it's
Right.
ridiculous. But I would put these men and women in these plank poses and like scrawny little me, and they would have all these muscles from all their personal trainers. And I would say, we're having a competition. And of course, high professional people love competitions. Most people do.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I would always win, and then they would finally say, "Okay, show me what you're talking about." And then I would show them how to get into this soft mindset and the flow, and I would tell them like, "Just do it. You will improve at your productivity, and you will also become a better person, less of a
Mhm.
jerk to the taxi driver, less of a jerk to your waiter. All of your stop buying alligator belts that you don't need." Like these guys, I would get so
No.
upset at these guys and girls, and I would see it in real time, so I fully believe it doesn't only help your productivity, but it makes you more of a better human because you notice how you feel, and if you notice how you feel, you can pick your head up and say, "Well, how do the people around me feel? I'm
Right.
not here alone. I'm here with other people. The taxi driver is also here. These people aren't here to just service me. We're all here together to do something." And I saw in real
Right.
time these people becoming the better versions of themselves, and they also saw where they got lost along the way with their
Looking
addiction to getting more money and power and fame and whatever it was. And
Mhm.
you can still achieve, but you can also act like a good person. I believe that study. I think it's incredible when people start doing practices like this.
Yeah. So that I mean, I love that story because it so exactly proves what you're trying to do in this way that is so tangible to people. Because sometimes, people can get lost in their head of like the esotericness of like, okay, what does she mean by that? But when you can show them in that very physical way what you're talking
Mhm.
about, it's like something clicks. And I love that example. But you also said something that's really interesting. And you said it's not the same as relaxing. I find that there's all these words that are used in wellness and well-being in the world that you and I work in, right? That become synonymous with words that we don't want them to be. And so this idea of relaxing versus living softly, I think
Mhm.
what you're saying is that they're 2 different things. Let's talk about that because I think that's a very easy place for a lot of people to go is like, "Oh, when she says live softly, she's meaning like, just go relax on a beach and like, chill out and,
Mm.
sleep and nap and whatever else," right?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah, not that. I mean, that's nice too. But even I think it changes that too. I think it changes your relationship to your relaxing time as, maybe relaxing for a lot of people is in a way not being good to yourself, just like housing the bag of potato chips and like, "Oh, I'm relaxing, it's fine." It's like, well, maybe you can relax and do something that's still nourishing for you, whether it's a nap or reading a good book, something like that, not ping-ponging from this do to treat
Mhm,
myself like crap so I can go back and like, where am I in the middle?
mhm,
And living softly and these practices that we're doing ourselves and sharing as best as we can is being very active in a way where you're doing everything with only the energy you need and not destroying yourself and as much as possible, not destroying anything else in the process. But it's almost like I love I love this awareness in culture and wellness, more of hypervigilance. We've seen this as like, oh my gosh, I'm
Mhm.
always on because of trauma and
Right.
stress response. But living softly to me is almost you take the hyper and the vigilance out of that and you just get awareness. You're noticing so much more when you're soft and you're connected within yourself. You can notice the taxi driver, you can notice the coffee shop person, you can see if someone's going to fall down before they fall down and hold their hand. You're more connected to yourself. So bad things happen less because you're more
Mhm.
safe within who you are. And then you
Mhm.
can get more done. You're more connected when you're
Right.
doing a movement practice or an exercise. You're more connected when you're doing your work. You're more connected in conversations because you're not just at full speed with your own brain full of stress and anxiety and effort. The effort is as minimal as possible so you can see and do so much more with awareness.
Right. So I'm almost picturing it like the relaxation is like one end of the spectrum and the hustle and the busyness is the other end of the spectrum and living softly is somewhere in the middle. Is that what you're saying?
I think that makes sense. It's almost like in the middle, but also like a completely different planet that we
Mhm.
get to sometimes. People talk about the flow state with their
Right.
run or their yoga practice or meditation, their great conversation or being at a concert, whatever. But
Right.
taking those amazing moments of flow state and putting them into the normal stuff of life where
Yeah.
we never normally get them. Whether
Right.
you're standing in line at the grocery store, nobody talks about flow state when they're standing in line at the grocery store. They
Sure.
talk about it when they're at the Dome in Vegas, like, seeing the Grateful Dead, and it's like, "Well, okay, cool, but, like, I didn't get to go to that," I'm in
Mhm.
line at a grocery
Mhm.
store. We're sitting there with your kid when they're, I mean, Daisy goes through these phases where she's awesome, and the next moment she's like, in a panic about something I don't understand, and I need to be
Mhm.
present and aware and
Mhm.
soft and not also go into that panic. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think living softly is between relaxing and hustle culture, but also life on Mars in that way.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is that it's just another level because it is that awareness, right? Because
Uh-huh.
maybe being in the middle of relaxation and hustle is just being in the middle, but when you add the awareness, you're actually taking it to another plane.
Yeah, and it feels right. When we do this with groups, everybody always says, "Oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to be me." You don't become more yourself, but you just realize that you can stay you. You're not changing in this way that makes you feel awkward or silly or disconnected from yourself.
Mhm. How, like when somebody's coming at you with lots of negativity and lots of toxicity, like we live in a world right now where there is so much of that. And I know I'm hearing this from everyone that I talk to in my life that they are so overwhelmed with sort of the state of the world right now. And so there's all this stuff coming at them. How do you live softly in relationship to other people? So when they're coming at you with that toxicity, what do you do?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if this is come out of my understanding of softness practice is to not react.
Mhm.
And, I don't see so much negativity coming at me as I talk to a lot of people all day long within our community. And sometimes when people are off balance, they just have too much to say about something.
Yeah. Right.
And they want
Mhm.
to talk and talk and talk and talk. And then I realize, okay, I can just listen. They may be asking me to solve their problem, but
Yeah.
that's not really what they're asking. And, 10 years ago, me might have, well, definitely would have tried to jump in and fix it for them. Oh,
Mhm.
okay, you can do this, or you can do that, or this will help, or this will help. And they
Right.
just, and then I realized, okay, the softness version of me says, this person just wants to be seen. They want to
Sure.
share. They want to know that I'm here. And if I can relax myself into that, I'll feel good just listening to
Mhm.
them. And if
Right.
I jump out of myself and try to solve problems that aren't even the real problem, then I'm going to get tangled up in that too, and nothing
Mhm.
productive is going to happen. I can
Mhm.
save my energy for something more useful down the line and have a good experience within whatever that interaction is. So I definitely see more of that in the last several months than I've seen in a long time for sure. This
Mhm.
sort of like
Yeah.
feeling of uncontrolledness.
Yeah, like, I mean, and I think that's a great way to be in the world where everybody is just spinning. And then you
Mhm.
just can center yourself and be aware and just sort of like hold that space and
Mm,
listen, right? But what if it's actually being hurled at you? Like, just in
mm.
personal relationships, like someone's coming at you for whatever reason. How do you live softly in that instance? Because I think most human beings, right, they want to protect themselves.
Mhm.
Like, and I'm thinking about energy. Like, I know I've learned a lot about energy from you and from Mike, the Tai Chi way. And so that's what I'm picturing, but I'm not sure exactly how to explain it. How would you like someone's hurling that stuff at you? What do you do in that moment?
Oh my gosh. I think I've maybe gotten good at practice personally because I'm trying to think as you said that I don't know in the last it was over 10 years ago the last time I felt like somebody was coming at me,
Mhm,
yelling at me or being
mhm,
dramatic or
mhm,
something like that.
uh-huh.
But I hear now my friends call me with something happening to them and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I know what to do." So, maybe I can help here.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing of not getting involved. When someone comes at you with whatever's going on, and we often know, okay, they're not doing this because of this. They're doing this because of something else is going on. So a lot of my friends try to go and solve this other issue that the person's not even coming at them with. But
Mhm.
that person doesn't want you to solve that issue for them. They just want to argue with you. So I think the
Right,
best thing that I've given friends advice is to not engage as much as possible. Maybe you need to
right.
reply, maybe they're standing next to you, maybe you need to
Mhm.
say something, but you can also say something pleasant, then turn your back to them and walk away. That's totally okay.
Right.
It takes two to fight, and I always think with myself, the fight that I always have with myself is force and tension within me. And if I go to war with myself, I'm gonna lose.
Right.
And if someone is coming at me trying to have a fight, I can always choose to answer them and then walk away or to not
Right.
engage in that fight any further,
Right.
especially if I don't want to be in that fight. So I
Right.
think that's been something that's been really helpful for me in our community. And I just feel so lucky. Lots of my friends who know me but aren't directly in the Strala community always wonder how come there's no drama within Strala and all
Mhm.
this. And I feel
Right.
like we've gotten so lucky for sure, but also it's the way that we all try to be. And it's not that things don't come up and people don't get along or whatever, but it's this, okay, I'm okay. I can take care of myself. And if somebody is
Mhm.
bugging me or whatever, I don't need to make a big deal about it. I don't need
Right.
to fully panic or bring in other people to gossip or any of that. So we just don't have
Right.
that so much, which
Mhm.
is really nice.
Yeah, it's almost like you are moving out of the way of that, like, energy that's coming at you and letting it just, like, either dissolve or crash somewhere else and not crash into you. It's like you're
Absolutely.
transforming it by just moving out of the way and saying, I'm not gonna engage with it. I'm gonna take care of myself." That's what
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
Yeah, and I have to share with you because I forgot about this until now, but this is going in the book. There was a girl who told me at a workshop just about this. She said, "What do I do when somebody's coming at me in the
Right.
workplace?" And I
Sure.
said, "Well, do you mind sharing what's happening?" She said, "Yeah, I work with all these guys. They stand really close, they come at me."
Mm,
And I said, "Well, do you mind sharing like what's the situation at work? What's the position?" And I was blown away. She said, "Well, we're all scientists and I'm the boss." And I'm like, "Holy cow."
wow.
This is amazing, and they still come at you
Uh-huh.
with their stuff, and she says, "I know it's because they're insecure and all these things." So she's dissecting their psychology all the time.
Right.
And then I said, "Just from this physical practice and emotional practice of softness," exactly what you just said. I said, "What happens if you step back a little bit while they're coming at you physically in person and then
Mhm.
angle your body to the side so their energy can literally go
Yes.
beyond?"
Right.
And she did that, and then she said that changed everything, and then we had another conversation. She said she holds meetings with these guys, and they're bigger than her, so when they sit down, they're taller, and
Uh-huh.
they don't listen to her because of this sort of physical dynamic, and I said, "Well, what happens or would you feel comfortable standing wherever you wanna stand and then moving around the room, giving your presentation?" She said, "I never thought about that, but I'll give it a try." And she changed just where she was. She wasn't being forceful or
Right.
banging on anything. She didn't even have to raise her voice or say, "Listen to me." But she
Right.
just changed her physical and emotional position. And I mean,
Mhm.
she wrote me the longest email. I'm putting it in the book. It's just incredible. She said everything is
Mhm.
now how she wants it to be at work. So that was great.
Yeah, yeah. It's like this secret language that you're teaching us because
Mhm.
that is actually it's so incredibly true that when you change your position, your
Mhm.
physical position, you can actually change the energy dynamics in a room.
Mhm.
It's also, goes to the science of energetics in space, which is,
Mhm.
feng shui in Chinese
Mhm.
medicine, but also vastu in Ayurveda and yoga, right? That's a sister science, which is the energy of space and the
Mhm.
sort of like where things are placed. And so
Mhm.
it's this idea of how you position yourself in a room and you change the position can change the energy dynamics of a situation also. That's, I think, exactly what you're speaking to. That's incredible. That is
Yeah,
so
it's
cool.
so fun. I mean, my shiatsu teacher, Sam Berlin, taught me this because he saw a girl at one of the trainings who I really like, but she kept talking really close to me. And then I would literally back up and she would move, and I would back up and she would move. And I wasn't even aware that this was happening.
Right.
And he told me, because I was interested in having the conversation with her, but I was like
Yeah.
running against the wall at one
Right.
point. And he said,
Right.
Tara, just angle yourself a little bit this way. You'll stay in conversation
Right.
and she won't be in your space and you won't feel
Uh,
backed up and she'll feel more balanced in what she's saying. Also, it's not just a
right.
one-way thing. And I did that and it changed everything for me in that moment. So I've been obsessed with the sort of positioning of space since then. And
Mhm.
it's just been so, it's something to also busy yourself with when you walk into a space instead of thinking, are people going to like me? Whatever it is,
Right.
we get so
Right.
anxious in our minds, but we can walk into any space and move yourself around in a place where you intuitively feel is good for you and good for the other people, then you're going to have something really productive to do with your energy that's going to support all of your
Mhm.
goals for how you want to spend your time there.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's incredible. So, okay, so we've talked about how to deal with other people. I would really love for you to share some ideas of, some practical ways that we can start living softly today. Like what are some things that we could start to do so that we can trust that this new way of living softly won't, make us lose our edge or
Yeah.
lose
Yeah.
our success or our productivity or creativity, what are some things that we could start to do?
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this because, it has to be practical, otherwise we're not gonna do it, and it has to be fun, otherwise we're not gonna do
Exactly.
it. And
Right.
I came up with these moments, and I ended up calling them softness breaks, and it's really
Right.
just been so much fun for me to share them on social media and in the book and just with friends and family all the time, of things you can do when things are already easy, So,
Mhm.
whether it's first thing in the morning or standing in line at the grocery store or before you get to work at your computer, literally taking a moment to become bendable. So bend your elbows and joints and your physical body, and then allowing your mind, your emotions to soften, which is the hard part,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then literally notice what happens. Get obsessed with yourself in this way. Watch your breath move you. And then all of a sudden you're movable. And that's a really good start to get soft, get into that breath body conversation, get into that whole body harmony, notice how you feel. And then other things will happen. You'll start to notice, oh, I'm working a little harder here than I need to, or I'm holding my pinky finger and it can relax. There's so many little areas that you can get into with these softness breaks, but just that simple, let everything be bendable, be movable physically and emotionally, and then watch your breath move you. It completely changes everything. When we meditate, I think for years, didn't do a meditation practice because of the same reason everybody else wasn't doing it, because we were thinking we needed to clear our mind and see the blue lake and whatever it was. And
Right.
if I can give my mind a job to keep my mind busy, and it's literally just watching something fascinating, watch my breath move me, then oh my gosh,
Mhm.
I'm meditating, I'm doing this
Yes.
moment of awareness practice, of softness practice, and I'm enjoying it. I'm so excited about it that when it's over, it's not even over. It's not like, okay, I've done my workout, now I'm going to go do my day and then I need another workout. When you do the softness practice, it lasts a lot longer than that. And then it's so short and easy. You can just do another one. We need to do another one, do it again, do it in line at the grocery store. You can do this when you don't need privacy for it either. It's not like
Right.
this practice that you have to look a certain way or, act strangely. You can stand in line at the grocery store, adjust your body position. Are you too close to the person in front or behind? Bend your whole self, maybe give your arms a little wiggle. There's so many little techniques. Again, always coming back to that breath body connection. Watch your breath move you and then look around, notice what's going on around you. It
Mhm.
keeps you safer. Everybody wants to be safe, but we're all so up in arms about how to do that. You can be safe and
Mhm.
create that safety by noticing how you feel,
Mhm.
listening to your instincts, and noticing literally what's happening around you in your space.
Mhm.
And we can all tap into all those, what we think are superpowers, superhuman powers, just by connecting more in this way with these softness breaks. So I'm
Mhm.
obsessed. I share them all the time on
You do.
Instagram. They're so like silly. And I mean, they're meant to be boring. It's like, here I am in the kitchen, like taking a softness
Yeah.
break,
Right.
whatever it is. And you can literally do it all the time when things are easy. So in the middle of the panic moment with your kid or my kid or in the middle of, a hard thing at work or hard conversation, you don't have to think, oh, I have to do my softness break now. You know what to do or you know how to
Mhm.
approach something because you've had that built up softness in you for so long.
Right. You're practicing it when it's easy, when it's
Mhm.
comfortable to do it, so that when it's uncomfortable or stressful, it's like muscle memory. You go into
Uh-huh.
that state, right? So, how do you do this when you are, let's say, exercising or moving? You do movement all the time. How do you stay soft or, move softly when you are doing something physically that might be difficult for you?
Uh-huh.
Because I think the tendency is to just sort of like clench up and stress because you're like, "Oh my god, I this is really hard for me." How do you get yourself to relax into that? Because I think that's scary actually for a
Mhm.
lot of people, including
Yeah,
myself. Like, how do you do
it's
that?
it's definitely scary. I think by starting with something that's not so challenging that you feel like it's
Mhm.
almost to your panic zone
Right.
and starting with the same idea of the softness breaks, allowing yourself to be movable so your breath can
Mhm.
move you and really getting that in you so you see how that keeps you safe. And we're all brainwashed that, bracing with this muscular effort keeps us safe, but we also know that that's how we get injured when we're not listening to ourselves, when we're forcing ourselves to do something. That's when you throw out your back or you bust a knee or whatever. You're
Right.
just not paying attention. So paying attention to how you're moving moment to moment. And again, with all the softness breaks, that's moving from your center, moving in a nice way. It's not moving like you're spaced out or something like that,
Right.
but just being more mindful with where you're putting yourself,
Sure.
not from sitting on the ground to standing up at every moment along the way. How are you standing up? Are you crawling up nicely? Or are you just popping up to get to the next place? And
Mhm.
these are things that I think are so fun because they keep you good busy in a
Mhm.
nice way. I can spend my entire day just focusing on how I'm moving from sitting talking with you to going to the kitchen to picking up Daisy, how I'm moving in and out of the car, all these little things that we all think are just a means to an end to get to the
Right.
workout, but you can
Sure.
do that in the middle of your workout. And then
Mhm.
the other thing when something's really physically challenging and we all think of workouts then, if you're holding a squat or holding a position and you're getting to that point where like, oh my gosh, everything's shaking,
Mhm.
instead of thinking, okay, I need to stay here, think about what can I relax here and still be here? Is there anything that I can drop? Is there any extra effort that I can actually drop? Can I clean house a little bit? Can I let go of tension in my finger? Can I let go of tension in my mind? Can I
Mhm.
let my breath support me? Every inhale is literally like a personal assistant lifting, helping, supporting you. Every
Mhm.
exhale is a release, a relax, a rest in a way. So
Mhm.
instead of thinking, okay, I just need to stay for 5 more seconds,
Right.
what can I release with 5 more breaths?
Love that. Love that. That's cool. And I think it just takes trust and I think it's scary to think that that's possible even because again we've been conditioned to think that we got to stress more to hold that
Mhm.
position that
Uh-huh.
the idea of relaxing into it is so foreign that I
Mhm.
think, again, your example of just doing it with something that's not so challenging and just trying it out. And then also these softness breaks so that you're doing it when it's a more comfortable, safe position for you.
Mhm.
And you start practicing it so that when you're in that sort of stressful position, you can muscle memory into the softness.
Mhm. It sounds silly because we wanna practice in the middle of a hard thing because that's what our silly brains have been told, like, "No, do 80,000 push-ups and you'll get better," but you can hold a plank pose, drop the tension, drop the effort, and then you'll be able to do a lot
Mhm.
more.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to get to a listener question. I put out a question on social media asking my community to send me questions for you about living
Mm.
softly. And this is one that I thought was really interesting. This comes from Becky in California. She said, I struggle with guilt when I rest or slow down. How do I shift my mindset to see rest as productive rather than wasted time?
I mean, that's totally understandable and relatable for, I think, everyone. I'm not saying anything new here. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't do anything. And I think, again, maybe it's shifting this all or nothing mindset. I'm doing things for my family, for the world, for people, or I'm taking care of myself. Well, how can you take care of yourself while you're doing things for your family, for your community, and for the world
Hmm.
without burning out, without using extra energy, without using extra mental power? So I think it comes back to these softness practices. So you feel good while you're achieving, and then you have time for rest too, but then it shifts how you look at rest. It's not like, oh, I just need to change my mindset so I'm happy that I'm resting. It's change how you're doing the hard things so you look at rest in a different way and you say, okay, no, well, now it's actually time to rest because it
Right,
still will be time to rest, but you don't need, it's silly to say this in a way, but you won't need as much rest when
right.
you don't overwork when you're doing. You
Mhm.
won't be as exhausted
Yeah,
and you can
yeah.
appreciate the time to rest more instead of just running out of steam and collapsing in a way.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Okay, do you mind doing a quick connection round? This is something new I'm
Sure.
doing.
This
It's
is
similar
fun.
to a lightning round, but I'm gonna
Cool.
call it a connection round because I think connection is the entire point of
Mhm.
why we are on earth. That's my perspective. I
Yeah.
really believe that. And so I know I would love to know you better, and we talk a
Mm.
lot, but I know my listeners would like to know you better. So is that okay? Can I ask you a couple
Yeah,
questions?
please. This is
All right.
awesome.
Okay. So what is something that brings you instant joy?
Well, connection for sure with you. Anytime I get to hang out with you, that's joy.
So sweet.
Daisy for sure. I mean, I look at her and I'm thinking, wow, I've been waiting for you my whole life. So just
Yeah.
her, you, connection, these positive, healthy connections for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm very honored to be in that group. What is something that makes you feel seen? And can you give me an example?
Oh my gosh. Well, again, now having these conversations where I feel like I've gotten to a point in my life where I figured out something for myself that's so valuable to me that I feel so proud to share it. And
Mhm.
I feel like that's happening with Living Softly. With you asking me to come back and talk about this, there's been little things like I think you saw this, like Jessica Alba shared something about
I
softness that I
know.
posted, which is just
So cool.
incredible. I know
Yeah.
to her 30 million fans or whatever. And
Yeah.
and another magazine just reached out to talk about softness. So I think it's not just the, you know, press and positivity and things like that, but it's about having something that I feel really has helped me that other people feel like not just supporting me in that, but that it's
Right.
theirs too. And I think that's super new for me and different. I feel like I've done all of these things that I almost felt like I'm giving, here's the thing that I made. And now
Mhm.
I feel like it's this, oh, we're in this together. We all want this. So there's a lot of us
Mhm.
looking for these same things. So it's
Yeah.
this connection of I feel seen and it's this two-way situation for sure.
Mhm. Love that. It's so cool. I was so excited for you when I saw that. Oh my god. Okay, what is a song that makes you feel most alive and why?
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is a funny one. So I love Kenny Rogers and I love the song The Gambler.
Mhm.
And I know it's this weird, like classic rock song, but I just love the song. I love the lyrics. I love the resonance of his voice. My dad loved the song as well. But I love playing it for yoga, but it's just like
Mhm.
I can listen to that song and it'll tell me something that I need to hear about life. And the way that song makes me feel is instantly perfect all the time.
I love that. So I call my podcast The Healing Catalyst because, I really, really want to help people make really impactful choices to help and support their health and healing. That's the whole point of doing this podcast and all the work that I do. So, along those lines, what is one thing, one simple thing that the listeners could try doing today to start living softly?
Yeah, take a softness break. I mean, probably now because you're listening to this, maybe comfortable driving, anything, make sure you're in a safe place, but to bend what can be bend physically, emotionally, then start to notice what happens with you and do that for just a bit of time. It doesn't need to be 5 seconds or 10 seconds, but just for a moment so you feel like something is happening through you, with you. Then do it again later when you remember and keep that going.
Mm. Tara, thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm obsessed with this idea of living softly, and it has helped me so much, so I know it's going to help other people. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much.
I have to say, I love the story that Tara shared about setting up a plank competition with her CEO clients just to show them the power of living softly. That story makes me smile so much. Just imagining how Tara can outplank all of them. But it also really beautifully shows what happens when you consciously let go of tension, because that is where the real power is. It's almost radical to consider that all the hustle, all the busyness, all the constant doing might actually be the weaker choice. That softness, the intentional release of tension, is what creates real strength. And that's what I hope you take away from this episode, that living softly is a strong choice. It's not about doing less. It's not about just taking it easy. It's about doing things differently. It's about regulating your nervous system, staying connected to your breath and to your body, and showing up in your life with clarity and calm. And when we live this way, softer, more aware, more present, we're also more connected to other people. We're able to take care of each other so much more in meaningful ways because our healing is connected. We are all connected. And if there was ever a time for us to build those kinds of practices into our daily lives, to connect more, it's now. So I want to challenge you to try one of Tara's softness breaks every day. She shares all kinds of examples over on her Instagram page, which is linked for you in the show notes. But truly, it can be as simple as she says. A few times a day, just pause. Consciously release the tension somewhere in your body. Maybe roll your wrists, arch your back, soften your jaw, and pay attention to what your breath does. Let yourself be moved by your breath. Let yourself be movable. It's a subtle kind of healing, but one that's incredibly powerful, one that will ripple into every part of your life and into the world around you. Because you can take your power back. You can support your health. And in the process, you'll also support all the people around you. And it can start with the smallest thing, choosing to live just a little more softly. As always, thank you for listening and thank you for being part of this community. And remember, healing isn't just possible, it's in your power. I'll see you next time. Until then, be well. Thank you for listening to The Healing Catalyst. If you found this episode helpful, please hit follow and share it with a friend. And if you feel inspired, please rate and review because it helps others find this podcast more easily. For more insights and tips, head to my website at avantikumarsingh.com. And to connect with me directly, find me on Instagram at Avanti Kumar-Singh. I loved sharing this episode with you. My hope is that you heard something today that sparks a catalyst in your healing journey and helps you build lasting health. Be well, and I'll see you next time. This is a Dante 32 production.